Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for all the responses we've gotten about the Bridging Heaven and Earth Foundation, which we talked about a lot before and we'll get into on future shows, and about the Lessia Bridging Heaven and Earth CD, and definitely about this show. We've been getting, calls and emails from right across the country, just inspiring us to continue on, to bring all those dreams into fruition. So first of all, I just really wanted to thank you for that. And then, as I was driving over here tonight, and just really since it happened a few days ago, I mean, we're shooting this in the year 2000, but could it have been any other time over the last 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, that there's some horror going on in Jerusalem? There's some horror going on over one person's first most sacred site versus another person's third most sacred site. One religion's first sacred site and another religion's third, fifth, ninth. I mean, how ludicrous is that going to be? How many years is that going to continue? That we will kill over a site? When are we going to realize that we are the sacred sites? That our life force, our love, each of us, no race, no religion, no color, no creed, no sexual preference, no age, is any less that sacred site. And yet we go on and on and on and on. And for some idiotic reason, beyond reason, we keep killing each other in the name of God, in the name of love, in the name of passion. We'll take this precious human life, strap bombs to it, and go into a ship, or go into a temple, or go into a church. For some reason, there are holy wars throughout history where people who follow the Christ, but they don't follow it the same way. They don't follow it the right way. And in those, we'll have a holy war. I mean, isn't it time that we stopped? Isn't it time that we went a little deeper into the connection where we really are all one? Where that love, where that true Father, where that true God connects us all. And it's time that we did that. And tonight's show, once again, is dedicated to that oneness, dedicated to that connectedness of us all. And we have guests whose life's work, through different means, through books, through workshops, through yoga classes, through incredible music and harp playing and flute playing, is to bring that consciousness of that oneness, that love, more into their own lives, and certainly more into all those who are willing to listen. We have Darren John Main with us. He's a spiritual teacher. He's a yoga and meditation instructor. He's the author of Spiritual Journeys Along the Yellow Brick Road, which is an extraordinary book using the characters in The Wizard of Oz as archetypes for us to grow into that love, into that consciousness of the oneness. And we also have with us tonight Ignacio Lopez, who's an extraordinary master world musician and a Paraguayan harpist of just a delicate and powerful presence, who brings that music into a place of openness, into a place of surrender. And we're just honored to have Darren and Ignacio with us tonight. But let's all of us just stop the stupidity. Stop the killing in the name of God, in the name of love. We can come together and collaborate and make everything just such a beautiful experience and such a beautiful place for us all to be here. All of us, every last one of us, has the same life force, has the same God. Whatever we think, we just haven't gone deep enough and we haven't experienced enough. But the time is now to experience that, and hopefully this show of Bridging Heaven and Earth can bring us more into that experience. So please, as we normally do at this time to set a tone, join me in a short meditation, and then we're going to have a show with Ignacio and Darren, and it's going to be really magnificent. So please join me. Thank you. So please settle in, have the experience of the true love, the connection between us all. It is there and it is available. So the first set Ignacio is going to do tonight is, the first song is Tear of the Outsider, written by Jose Flores and performed by Ignacio. And the second song he's going to do in the first set is Gotitas de Rocio, written and performed by Ignacio Lopez. So please, just settle in, listen to the music, and let it take you. Thank you. Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you, Ignacio. So we're on the set with Darren Main. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you.
So how did you come to connect the spiritual path to the Wizard of Oz? How did the synopsis come into your head like that?
The idea, I'd tossed the idea around for a while, seeing the movie over the years, meditating, reading books, and really identifying. But when it really came together was when I was watching the movie with a friend of mine, Bodhi. He was 7 years old, or 4 years old at the time. He's 7 now. And just watching him go from the fear of, seeing the tornado, the excitement of showing up in Munchkin Land with all the color, all the emotions along the way, the grief at the end when Dorothy says goodbye. And I started to realize that was everything that I had gone through in my life, he experienced in that hour and a half watching that movie. And it really started to sink in that Dorothy's journey was my journey and everyone's journey, just have embodied.
And you also looked into it, and the author of The Wizard of Oz was Frank Baum.
L. Frank Baum, yeah.
Yeah, and he was a very spiritual person, and there was like that, there was more chance of that really being a metaphor than people knew, right?
Yeah, initially people thought it may have been a political commentary. A man named Henry Littlefield wrote a paper about it, and the idea was that it had to do with the gold standard and the president at the time. When really, later it was sort of proven that Baum wasn't a particularly political man.
He was a very spiritual
and he was
man.
very spiritual. He was a theosophist.
Mm-hmm.
And theosophy, they had a lot of influence, Asian influence from a lot of Asian immigrants with Buddhism and Hinduism, and so that interwoven with Christianity a little bit. So my feeling is he was trying to teach his children some lessons about life and about spirituality.
And then in your writing the book, you kind of made each of the characters in each of the scenes like an archetype of a specific movement in the spiritual path, right? I mean,
right. I believe that each of the characters are not external characters. Like somebody said, I think my mother's the Wicked Witch. And I think that my perception is that each of the characters are part of us. We're all like Dorothy trying to find home. We're like the Tin Man trying to open our hearts. We're like, the Scarecrow trying to open our minds, or out of fear keeping those things shut down.
So when you were writing this, you were proceeding through this way, and each one of the characters, why don't you start going through the characters and tell
Sure.
how that fit into the whole, and how that can help people, helped you into that experience of what I was setting at the opening, that oneness. And
yeah, well, I think that the thing that was the first thing I did in the book was I looked at the places Dorothy visits, and that would be Oz and Kansas specifically. And I really see Kansas as being where family is, where oneness is, where she's whole and complete and feels nurtured and supported. And Oz being just the opposite in a way. I mean, she meets friends along the way, but she's very much alone. She's very much sort of her own unique, separate, to use the words of Scott Peck, rugged individual. And she's sort of on her own in the journey. So my feeling is that what she is seeking, what Dorothy is seeking, is to return to Kansas, to return to that experience of family or oneness that you mentioned. The first place she shows up is Munchkin Land, and for me the Munchkins represent the childhood tribe, or the tribe or the group of people that we're born into. And the responsibility of the childhood tribe, or the Munchkins in our lives, is to teach us how to survive in the world, how to function, how to do what we need to do to get by in this world. The Emerald City, on the other hand, which is what Dorothy sort of ventures to within the Land of Oz, is her adult tribe, and the tribe of her choosing as an adult. The road from the Munchkin Land to the adult tribe is really the path of forgiveness, letting go. Because until we start to let go of the things we hold about our parents, about our church, wherever we started off our life, until we sort of move beyond the things we are bitter about in those areas, we just keep recreating them in our lives. So in order to do that, Dorothy finds several friends along the way. And again, each of these characters are part of who we are. The first character she bumps into is, of course, the Tin Man, or the Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow represents the mind, and in opening our intellect and our cultivating a sense of wisdom. I always refer to learning to dance with each of the characters, since that's what Dorothy sort of does when she meets them. She dances back and forth, and they sing their little song. With the Tin Man, or with the Scarecrow, what Dorothy is really learning to do is first get off her post. And the post is that place that we're stuck at childhood. This is the way things are. You don't think. Sit down in front of this TV, play this video game. Don't think for yourself. Just, this is the way it is.
Learn the rules.
Learn the rules. Don't break them. Don't question. And so the first thing we do with the Tin Man is we take the Tin Man off the post. We start to take the mind off the back shelf and start to think for ourselves, to develop our own opinions and thoughts and beliefs, to challenge things, and then to really grow on the things that do work. As she moves forward, with the Scarecrow, it becomes more about logic and wisdom and intuition and learning to trust those things. So the Tin Man, I always get them all confused. They all sort of blend together. The Tin Man is really about the heart. And this is, I think, the harder of the three characters to deal with, at least for me. He's rusted, which is the way many of us get when we let, you were mentioning earlier about the tragedy over in Israel. And we see these things over and over and over again in our little communities and turning on the evening news. And we start to feel like there's nothing I can do. I just got to look out for myself, and we shut down and we rust and we rust and we rust until we're like this Tin Man and we're emotionally frozen. Breaking out the oil can is the process of opening the heart and allowing it to move and express itself. And the Tin Man's ultimate lesson as he moves through the journey with Dorothy is that A, he does have a heart and he does have the capacity to love. And my favorite, I have several favorite sections in the book, but my favorite is the breaking heart, where the Tin Man says, now I know I have a heart because I can feel it breaking. That to me is really, for the spiritual path, what opening the heart is all about. So much of what we do is we avoid emotional pain or discomfort. The discomfort of saying goodbye to somebody, or to ending a relationship consciously, or any number of things. But really that, in my feeling, is the breaking heart is not the heart breaking, but the heart expanding, sort of like growing pains. And when we feel that sting, we know that we're growing, we're learning to love in a new way.
A more expanded way.
Exactly. The lion, who is one of my favorite characters, just because I struggle with all of them at different times, but the lion is the need to find courage. And he's also, I associate him a lot with the body, because many of our fears are around our mortality, around this physical body that gets sick from time to time, that feels pain from time to time, and ultimately dies. And so as we identify
from
with
time to time.
From time to time, yes, right. Over and over again.
Right.
And so learning to dance with the lion is about cultivating courage and learning that I like the lion's ultimate journey.
How would you define courage in this sense?
Well, when the wizard says to the lion at the end, you're under the unfortunate delusion that just because you run from danger, you think you're a coward, and that wasn't so. I think that we have that experience often. We think because once we get on the spiritual path, we'll no longer be afraid. But once we get on the spiritual path, that's where all our fears confront us and slap us in the face. So for me, dancing with the lion is not about denying fear or not feeling fear, but about looking at it and walking into it. Doing so wisely, using the intellect and the intuition of the scarecrow to say, okay, this is a good thing to be doing. In the book I talk about not putting your hand on a hot stove. And that's a wise...
Not even from time to time.
Not even from time to time. I mean, that's not that's a healthy fear.
That's
Other
some
fears,
level of discernment you've
Yes.
developed, right?
But the idea of, being afraid of being alone, so staying in that abusive relationship, that's the type of fear we need to look at and walk through.
The courage to let go of that which is no longer serving us.
Exactly. And, they all three of them sort of work together. There's that scene where Dorothy is trapped in the witch's castle, and all three of these elements of who we are need to pull together to get her out. The courage of the lion, the compassion of the Tin Man, the intellect of the scarecrow developing this plan to get in.
I mean, that's what makes them archetypes, because there's no separation between them. I mean,
Right.
Unless they're in balance, we're going to proceed in disharmony in some way.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't really, they're like the threads of the tapestry, and if you pull one, the rest get pulled along
Right.
with it.
And what are the archetypes of the witches, the good witch and the wicked witch and the wizard? And
The good witch is, I see her as the spirit, the sort of the spirit of guidance, or the higher self, the Holy Spirit. Many religions call her different things, but she's that voice that's whispering in our ear constantly, telling us exactly what we need to know. She also sees things that we can't see from our limited perspective. We sit here in life and we're all caught up in the drama that's going on around us, or that we perceive going on around us. She's seeing things from up above.
higher in the maze.
So where it feels like we're, quitting our job is the worst thing we can do because we need the money and we have to pay the rent and all this, and she's whispering in our ear, quit your job, trust me.
A little faith might be
Yeah.
good at this point.
Learning to listen to her and to have faith in her is the key, because she's seeing that there's this better job down here,
Right.
something more effective, more suited for you. The wicked witch, on the other hand, is the ego, the part of our mind that most of us identify with most of the day, that believes in smallness and separateness. It's basically our small identity. The I am, my job, my sexual orientation, my skin color, my race or religion, my gender, my wounds from the past, my experiences. You mentioned the stuff going on in Israel. I'm not that person over there.
I can kill that person because that person's
That
less than
person's
me.
different
That's
than
a
me.
gook, that's a nigger, that's a kike, that's a, go through the
Yeah.
ugly litany of all the disgusting things we call each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the
and
name of love, in the name of God,
it's
in the name
really-
of going to heaven. I mean, that's the,
Yeah.
the glorious part of it.
And it's really all about defining who you are as being separate, which is, once we start letting go of that separateness, the wicked witch or the ego flips out. And she wants those shoes. Because once we recognize our oneness, we recognize our power. The wizard is a curious character. He's, I see him as religion, not so much a particular religion or even the external manifestation of religion, but the human need to find something outside ourselves to save us. And he's sort of this big paradox, because on the one hand, Dorothy would never have left Munchkinland if she didn't believe he could help her. But on the other hand, when she finally got there, she realized it was just a big lie. And so religions...
Yeah, it's like a movie. There's nothing behind the set. There's
Exactly.
no substance.
Well, they can inspire us and sort of keep us moving and
Right.
give us hope as we continue our journey. Ultimately, they fail us because we have to learn to use our own power, our own ruby slippers.
Experience it within.
Exactly.
It's not without. It's without and within, but if we don't experience it within,
No.
we're never going to experience it without. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
All right, well, maybe what we'll do now is have the second Ignacio set, and then we'll come back and talk to Darren some more. So Ignacio's second set, he's going to do 3 pieces, Momento de Tristeza. And we know that I'm terrible on, I'm worse on Hindi names, but this I'm probably not so good either. So that's written by H. Gumenez and performed by Ignacio. Then Beautiful Bride, which I probably got right because it's English and I'm fairly lucid in English. That's written, performed by Ignacio. And then Pajara Campagna, written by Felix Perel Carabel and performed by Ignacio. And whoever these people are, forgive me. That's all I could say. So Ignacio, whenever you're ready. Wow, thank you, Ignacio. That was fantastic. So we're back on the set with Darren. So what about Toto? How did Toto fit into this whole spiritual picture?
Toto was the hardest character to write about. He almost didn't make it into the book. I would meditate and nothing would come. So I just sort of figured maybe he wasn't meant to be in there. And I turned in the manuscript to the publisher, and I took off on vacation to Thailand. And while I was there, I had this experience that I write about in the book in a lot more detail, but I went hiking by myself. And I kept feeling this internal pull to go off hiking in the rainforest alone in Thailand, foreign country, which is, my logical brain was saying, this is really not a good idea.
Right.
No bug repellent, no nothing.
Right.
And I came across this grove where the light was sort of beaming through the trees. It was, rainforest, so there's like this canopy of trees and light streaming through, and just thousands and thousands of butterflies. And they were, as I closed my eyes, I could feel the wind on my face from their little wings. And in that moment, I knew what Toto was about, and that's that spontaneous, illogical, wild urge that we have to do all kinds of crazy things. That we sort of try and keep him on a short leash, because we know he's going to make our life difficult, at least in the short term. But he's also what brings us to our greatest lessons. With Dorothy, he's the one who a bit Elmira Gulch in the beginning of the movie. He's the one that jumps out of the balloon at the end. He's the one that reveals the wizard when he pulls back the curtain. And so he's always sort of getting Dorothy in trouble. At least that's the surface thing. But when she really listens to him, when she really follows him, he brings her to the next step in evolution. And so learning to work with Toto, learning to trust that inner voice and let the inner Toto run wild a little bit, follow where he leads, is, I believe, what brings us to our greatest lessons in life.
And there's also the witch's castle. How does that fit in?
The witch's castle, there's a few different parts to the witch's castle. There's many parts of our mind that we don't like to look at, that we don't like to acknowledge, the dark corners of our mind. And really any spiritual practice, whether it's something traditional or something not so traditional, is about exploring those dark areas. A lot of times, again, people find themselves starting a spiritual path and they think that it's all about feeling good and nice and never being afraid or looking at darkness or feeling anger. And really that's a dangerous place to be. I think what we really need to do is go into the mind and find some of those dark places. The witch's castle.
If we look and see what's there, I mean, we won't have trouble finding them. We don't have to really, I mean, they're there.
Yeah.
Is the
I think
thing at that time.
The dangerous thing is if we ignore it and deny it. Someone like Hitler can come along and tap into that and use it against us. Whereas if we bring the light of awareness into it, the wicked witch melts, and her allies become our allies. One of the things I wrote about in the book was some of the defense mechanisms that the wicked witch has. When we start to get closer and closer to confronting her and seeing her for what she is, she freaks out. And the first thing she does is she tries to scare us. Just like, don't look there. Give me the shoes, you don't know how to use them. As we get a little closer, she tries to put us to sleep with the poppies. And for me, the poppies represent addiction, whether it's to drugs or sex or food. She uses the poppies to keep us asleep, to keep our scarecrow on the post, dead to the world. If we proceed through the poppies, she tries scaring our tribe. She has us behave in certain ways that might make our adult tribe, the Surrender Dorothy written across the sky. It's the wicked witch in our mind saying, get away from me. I'm dangerous. I'm bad news.
Yeah, you'll be isolated. You'll be alone. You have every reason to be afraid now because you're alone and you're out there and all these evil things are...
Yeah, she's bad news. Stay away from Dorothy. If that doesn't work and we keep proceeding closer the way Dorothy did, then she sends out the winged monkeys. And there's one line in the movie where she mentions insects. And I believe that the monkeys and the insects are, the monkeys are the bigger things and the insects are the smaller things in life that sort of just peck at us and beat us down and tear us apart. The rent, the bills, the struggles in your relationship, the evening news, you name it, the things that just beat us down and make us feel like
day after day, right.
You know, I can't do this spiritual journey stuff, it's all nice, it sounds great, but it's better done by the Mother Teresas of the world, it's not for me, I have to pay the bills. If we proceed further, then she goes right up to the edge and threatens our life, because she realizes that the ruby slippers are not coming off. They can't be taken from us, so she threatens our very life.
And also, the book was a little different than the movie. I mean, just because that's the nature of things. And the book had more of those kind of qualities coming out. And you use both.
I use both. I focus more on the movie.
Because that's more part of our culture and people can respond to them.
And there were things like the ruby slippers in the movie were actually silver in the book. I mean, those are sort of not big differences, but in the book, Dorothy, Kansas and or Oz is a real place. In the movie, Oz is just a dream. So both fit nicely into different scenarios. I tend to use the movie because I think that's what people are familiar with.
And how do you find, I mean, you've been traveling, doing book signings and radio and TV all over the country now. How are people responding to that as a connection and to that as being a tool for their opening their hearts and their, you know, their experience into that greater love?
I'm actually surprised. I expected the book would do well. I didn't expect it would do as well as it has. And it continues to. I get emails constantly from people who tell me about the first time they saw The Wizard of Oz, or I got an email not too long ago from a group of people that started a support group out near Palm Springs, California. And it's such a simple story. It's so familiar. I talk about it being like the stealth way of spirit getting a message across. You know, when Jesus or Buddha were asked, tell me how this works, they tell a story. And I really feel like The Wizard of Oz is one of the few stories that originated in our culture, in the American culture, that really gets to that. And people are just really, really tapping into that.
And the connection really means something to them. So that once you point it out, they say, oh, you know, oh, that's right.
And also, I feel like I need to write a new book, because as I've traveled around, people will say, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? And it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that. So it's interesting to see people come up with their own ideas. In the introduction to the book, I ask people to, you know, obviously read what I have to say, but only use that as a starting point.
Right, because it has to be real for them. It's not good enough, it's just real for you.
It's like when you get your tarot cards read. It's the same thing, archetypes, symbols, images. And if I read your cards, I'm giving you my interpretation of what the cards say, which is nice and helpful perhaps, but what's more important is what you see in the cards, what it means to you. And so my hope is that people will read the book and then watch The Wizard of Oz again and see if they see it through different eyes.
But that has been your experience, that people say that, and that's the emails you're getting and all that.
Yeah, most people are saying they go and they rent The Wizard of Oz and they see it in a totally new way. I know people who are using it in schools now, The Wizard of Oz, to teach kids. And the nice thing about it is it's not attributed to one spiritual tradition, so it's not threatening. You can be Buddhist or Jewish or Christian or atheist or New Age or whatever, and it just sort of, it's universal, I believe.
And that would be nice.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, really. And also, you live in the San Francisco area. You also teach workshops and do yoga classes, all in the movement towards the connection. And you find that yoga is another tool for that.
Exactly. Well, it's all the same in a sense. Different things appeal to different people. Yoga is getting a lot of buzz. Madonna's doing it, Ricky Martin's doing it, Sting's doing it. My classes are full. I'm happy. But it's a really, I work a lot with the gay community in San Francisco. Particularly, I started when I moved to San Francisco working a lot with the HIV and AIDS community. And the nice thing about yoga is that it really taps into the body and allows us to experience our body in a new way. And for people who have been told that their bodies are bad or wrong, or your immune system is turned on you, it's a really, you can actually turn those things around into a powerful meditation, a powerful transformative experience. So yeah, and I've started teaching just around San Francisco mostly. I've taught in other places I've lived, but since the book has come out and in the months leading up to it, I've started teaching workshops all over the country, and it's really amazing to see.
And do you see, like, I mean, you say you're working like in a gay community where there's a certain, because of the resistance to that experience, there's like a tremendous identity with it, that at different points in yoga practice or in the book, that the expansion comes that, more than I'm gay or more than I'm that there's that, I'm a human being,
Exactly.
That connection starts to happen and we all start to come into that expansion.
My experience was, it was like any oppressed group of people. I think it's important that first you identify who you are, and then the challenge is to let that go and say, this is just a way I express myself.
Right, that's like we're wearing black shirts, that doesn't mean, right, that could be a subgroup and that could be against the white shirts, and we almost are that stupid most of the time.
Yeah.
But you're finding that all these tools are being used as a method to lift off into more a bigger world and a bigger expansion.
I think people get caught up in, the small things about who we are, the little incidental things. And when you look at the bigger picture, we're all just like Dorothy trying to find home, just like the Scarecrow trying to figure things out up here, just like the Tin Man trying to open the heart. And we're all struggling to do that in different ways, and some of them are healthy and some of them are not so healthy. But when you come down to that, none of us are really any different. Yeah.
At the root.
Different gifts wrapped in slightly different wrapping paper. Same gift wrapped in slightly different wrapping paper.
And that's the great illusion here, is that we come here as like one energy, one love, and we see ourselves as separate bodies, separate religions, separate species, all the things that we separate out and create all that duality when there is the experience of one, of love.
Yeah.
And all the tools and all the things you're doing are to bring people more into that experience one way or another.
I've also just started writing a column on the internet on holistic health, and I get masses of email. People are just hungry for a better way to live,
more harmonious, just to be happier. People want to be happy.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling separate and alone, it's hard to feel happy.
Yeah. And people are very disillusioned with the system, whether it's the healthcare system or whether it's religious institutions. Those things frequently don't serve us well. They make us feel worse than when we walked in the door. And so, the whole holistic health movement, the whole spiritual New Thought movement, Eastern spirituality, and it's all starting to blend together. I just led a workshop for a Christian church. They had a big convention and they had me come in and speak on alternative forms of spirituality and sort of bridging heaven and earth.
Christianity and everything else.
But bridging Christianity with yoga and other things, because it's time. It's time to bring it together.
And you see that as happening. We were talking, you came to my place earlier today. We were talking about that, you're traveling the world and seeing that movement, that people, those walls are breaking down, and people are having more and more of that experience.
Well, I think there's areas that things are breaking down, and there's areas that people are digging their heels in and resisting the change. I mean, when you look at the extreme religious right, they're scared, and they should be, because the old paradigm, the old way of thinking is changing. the old idea of I'm this and you're that is starting to fall away. Not quickly enough, but it's happening. And so it's going to change, and it will change, and
It's happening.
People are either embracing that change or fighting it.
But your experience is that we get guests, every week from all over the world, and the information we're getting is that they're really surprised, as you were saying, how many people seem to be coming into that experience and that movement.
And the most unlikely people possible. I just did a talk and a book signing in a little town I grew up in, which is quite a conservative little town, certainly compared to San Francisco. And I met people that I haven't seen since childhood, both people who are my own age and people who were my babysitters and next door neighbors, and they all came to see
Little John.
Yeah.
Little Darren.
See me
Right.
big and writing
Right.
books and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And they came up to me, people who I saw as very close-minded and conservative at one point, came up to me and gave me a hug, and they were very much into it and really getting it, and some have been taking meditation classes, and some have been doing Tai Chi, and others do yoga now, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah, that's
this
beautiful.
little town is changing.
That's really fantastic. So I guess, these shows come to an end really fast, and, I just want to, thank Darren and Ignacio. And remember, if there's any information you want on the book, if there's any information you want on where Ignacio's playing around Santa Barbara and the Central Coast area, I don't know if he travels further than that, but if you want any information on anybody, it's Alan, 805-687-2053, Alan, 805-687-2053. We got an incredible number of fantastic guests coming up. It's all happening. Good night. God bless you. Thank you. Good night.